Never thought I'd be sitting here, talking about this, but well, here we are. Honestly, I didn't think it would, go this far, but it did. And now, here I am. Alone. My name's Katie, I'm 32, and, I don't even know where to start. Okay, so here's the deal. My husband, Eric, he's 35, is a great guy. He works hard, he's super loyal, and he's, always been there for me. But, I guess I've been feeling kinda restless, you know? Not like anything huge, but I started to feel like maybe I was, missing something. Eric and I have been married for, almost 10 years now. We've got 2 kids, Ava's 8 and Liam's 5. I love them, obviously, but somewhere along the line, I just, started feeling like I'd lost a part of myself. And then, out of nowhere, I get this message from my college ex, Jason. We hadn't talked in, years. Not since graduation. He just, reached out to catch up, and I thought, why not? I mean, it's been forever, right? We had a lot of good times back then, and, there didn't seem to be any harm in talking. So I texted him back, and it turns out he's planning this big birthday party out in California. And, guess what? He invited me. Said he'd cover everything, flight, place to stay, the whole weekend. At first, I was like, okay, this is kinda weird. But then I started thinking, actually, this might be fun. A weekend getaway? For me? I mean, I deserve that, right? I didn't tell Eric. Not because I thought it was, wrong or anything, but because I knew he wouldn't approve. He'd probably say something about how, reconnecting with an ex is a bad idea, or, how it wouldn't set the right example for the kids. But I wasn't doing anything bad. We were just old friends reconnecting. Just catching up. No big deal, right? So I told Eric I was going to visit an old friend from college, a sorority sister, actually. Totally harmless, you know? I even made it sound like this, last-minute thing because she was only going to be in town for the weekend. Seemed believable enough. It's not like I was lying about something huge. So I flew out to California, and honestly, I was, really excited. The flight was covered. Jason said I could stay at his place, well, his house actually, and I didn't have to worry about, anything. Eric didn't seem all that bothered when I left. He kissed me goodbye, told me to have fun, but, I noticed this little look in his eyes, you know? He wasn't 100% sure about the whole thing. I spent the weekend with Jason, and, let's just say things got interesting. We caught up, went out for drinks, reminisced about the old days. He showed me around the city. There was definitely some, chemistry between us, no doubt about that. But, I kept telling myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. I kept saying, I'm just having fun. Just catching up. But, if I'm being honest, I knew it was deeper than that. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. And look, don't get me wrong, I wasn't planning to, ruin anything. I wasn't gonna do something I'd regret. I love Eric. I really do. But, after a few too many drinks on Saturday night, things escalated. And I don't even know why. It just happened. It wasn't planned, but I didn't stop it either. Maybe I should've, but I didn't. The next morning, I felt like absolute garbage. I didn't even want to, think about it. I told myself, okay, I'll just chalk this up to one of those things. I had a few drinks. I was just blowing off steam. Jason and I didn't talk about it, and honestly, I didn't want to talk about it. I just told myself the weekend was over and it was time to go home. I flew back to Chicago, and honestly, I was just so ready to, get back to my life, my kids, my routine, you know? But something fell off. I don't know how to explain it, but when I walked into the house, it just felt different. Like I didn't belong there anymore. Eric was sitting on the couch, watching TV. When I came in, he gave me this look, cold, quiet. He didn't say anything at first, but I could feel the tension in the air. So, how was the trip? He finally asked, his voice flat, totally emotionless. It was fine, I said, trying to sound casual, like everything was normal. But it wasn't. I could feel it. I just didn't know what to say. And, I could tell something was bothering him. He wasn't just being quiet because I was tired from the trip or whatever. It was more than that. I knew he was upset, but I didn't know why. I mean, I hadn't done anything wrong, right? At least that's what I kept telling myself. I tried to change the subject, made some small talk about the kids, but Eric wasn't having it. He just sat there, staring at me with this, unreadable expression. The silence was so thick, it felt like it was pressing down on me. And then, finally, after what felt like hours, he said, "Katie, what really happened this weekend?" I froze. I felt the blood drain from my face. He knew. I didn't know how, but he knew. I should have known better. Honestly, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was so caught up in my own little world that I didn't realize how obvious I was being. But it didn't really hit me until later that night. Eric was lying in bed, pretending to be asleep, but I could feel his eyes on me through the darkness. I was scrolling through my phone when I got a text from Jason. It was late. I was tired, but I couldn't resist reading it. Something about the way he texted me, those little flirty jokes we used to toss around back in college, it gave me this rush. Like I could almost feel the heat from California even though I was back home. The text itself seemed innocent enough, but I knew. I knew Eric could hear every word if I said something out loud. He didn't move or say anything, but the tension in the room? It was suffocating. I replied quickly, trying to keep it short, but then Jason called. And like an idiot, I answered, without even thinking. "Hey," I whispered into the phone, trying to keep my voice low so Eric wouldn't hear. "I miss you," Jason said, his voice coming through clear as day. "When can I see you again?" I didn't even realize how loud I was until I heard Eric stir next to me. His body tensed, and even though his eyes were closed, I knew he was awake. My heart was racing, but I couldn't stop myself. I'd been avoiding this conversation all weekend, and now here I was, letting it happen. "Sure," I whispered into the phone. "Not now, Jason. Please." Eric didn't say a word, but the silence? It was deafening. I hung up quickly, turned my phone face down on the nightstand, and tried to act like nothing had happened. But it was too late. I could feel Eric's mood shift. He didn't say anything that night. No questions, no accusations, nothing. But I knew. I knew he was putting it all together. The next few days were unbearable. Eric started asking these little questions, like totally random things that didn't seem like a big deal at first. Did you book your flight with points? Or did you use the credit card for the ticket? I brushed him off every time, saying it wasn't important, but every question felt like a spotlight on me. Each one made me feel guiltier and guiltier. I should have known then, he was on to me. He was starting to notice all the cracks, all the little things that didn't add up. He was piecing it all together, even if he wasn't saying it out loud. And then, well, the bank statement happened. Eric was going through our finances like he always does, checking balances, bills, the usual. That's when he noticed. He didn't say anything right away, but I saw his face when he looked at the screen. That moment when he realized there was no flight charge? I knew something was coming. "Katie," he said one night, sitting at the kitchen table scrolling through the statement, "you didn't pay for a flight to California." I froze, but I tried to play it cool. "What?" I said, acting surprised. "I told you, Eric. My friend covered it. You know that." But even I didn't believe myself. It sounded flimsy, even to me. Eric raised an eyebrow, giving me that look, like he was analyzing every single word I was saying. "Well, maybe I missed it," I mumbled, trying to change the subject. Maybe it was just a weird charge or something, but Eric wasn't stupid. He wasn't buying any of my excuses, and I could feel his patience running out. A few more days went by, and the tension in the house was unbearable. Eric wasn't being obvious about his suspicions, but I could tell. He was watching me. Every word I said, every move I made, he was paying attention. I felt like I was walking on eggshells every second I was around him. And then one night, it all came to a head. That night, Eric asked to borrow my phone. At first, I didn't think anything of it. I handed it over like it was no big deal, but there was something about the way he held it. He wasn't just checking his messages or making a call like he said he would. He was holding it like he was looking for something. I didn't say anything at first. I figured he'd just return it and that would be the end of it. But then I saw him stop scrolling. His brow furrowed and he didn't even glance at me. I felt my stomach drop. I knew what he was doing. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice a little too high-pitched. I was trying to act casual, but I could feel the panic rising in my chest. I knew exactly what he was reading. "I'm just checking something," he said, his voice stiff. Then, after a beat, he looked up at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't place. "Are you sure there's nothing you want to tell me, Katie?" I felt the blood drain from my face. I wanted to scream, to explain, to lie, but the words wouldn't come. I just stared at him, knowing that he already had all the answers. He didn't say anything else. He just handed me my phone, and in that moment I knew everything was out in the open. He'd seen the texts. He'd heard the calls. He knew about the lies. And just like that, I realized I couldn't talk my way out of this. It was over. Eric didn't raise his voice or shout. He just stood there, cold, staring at me as I held my phone. The silence was thick, suffocating. I knew this was it. A few days passed and things were, well, tense, unbearably tense. Eric didn't bring it up right away, but I could feel the weight of everything hanging between us. He was quietly processing, but I knew that the trust was broken. And then one night it happened. He asked me to come into the living room. I knew what was coming, but I still felt like I was about to lose everything. "Katie, we need to talk," he said, his voice quiet but full of something I couldn't ignore. I know you're upset," I started, but Eric interrupted me. "Upset? No, Katie. I'm not just upset." He paused, letting the weight of his words hang in the air. "I'm done. This is it." I felt like the world had just dropped out from under me. I opened my mouth to say something, to beg, but nothing came out. I knew I couldn't fix it anymore. Eric went on. "You lied. You went behind my back. You made a choice, Katie. And I can't be part of that anymore." I stood there, frozen. I wanted to apologize, but the words felt too small, too late. I started again, but he raised a hand, cutting me off. "I can't do this anymore," he repeated, his voice harder now. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm done." And just like that, everything I thought I had was slipping away. I had no words left. Eric didn't give me a chance to say anything else. He just stood there, his expression so cold that it felt like a punch to the gut. I felt like I was suffocating, like the walls of the room were closing in on me. "I'm done," he said again, quieter this time, but the finality in his voice was undeniable. "I'm filing for divorce, and I'm getting full custody of the kids. You'll have to figure out your own mess." I couldn't even react. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything, but nothing was clicking. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape. I had lost him. Eric left the room, and I just stood there, numb. I couldn't move, couldn't think. My mind was spinning. I wanted to scream, to beg him to stay, to fix everything, but deep down I knew it was too late. I had already ruined everything. I tried calling Jason. I thought maybe he would help me make sense of this. Maybe he would want me like I thought he did. But when I called him, it was like talking to a stranger. His voice was cold, distant. "Katie, I don't know what's going on with you, but I can't keep doing this," he said. "I thought we had something, but after everything that's happened, I'm done." That was it. I had no one left. Jason was gone, too. I tried texting him, calling, sending desperate messages, but he ignored me. Each time I reached out, I felt like I was losing more and more. The weeks dragged on, and I found myself sitting alone in a house that used to be filled with love and laughter. The kids were with Eric, and I couldn't blame him. He was the one who had always been there. And now he was moving on without me. I thought about everything. about the lies, the betrayal, how I had thrown away everything for a fleeting moment of excitement. And now I was left with nothing. No Eric. No Jason. No family. I had burned every bridge I had. And the worst part? I didn't even know if I was truly sorry. I felt regret, of course, but deep down I still couldn't fully admit what I had done. I still couldn't understand how wrong I was. I tried to pick up the pieces, but they didn't fit anymore. Eric was moving on, and there was nothing I could do to stop him. He was finally free from the lies I had wrapped him in, and in a way he deserved better. I had dragged him through all of this, and now it was too late for anything to be fixed. Jason? He was gone, too. He had seen through me, and I couldn't even blame him. He was just a part of my past, a mistake I made while trying to fill the void. And now he wanted nothing to do with me. So here I was, left with nothing but regret and the silence of my own choices. I had thrown everything away. My marriage, my family, person I once was. But it was too late for apologies. Eric had made his decision, and he was moving forward without me. And Jason? Well, Jason had already moved on, too. In the end, I got exactly what I deserved.